if you're trying to listen in on a great conversation, an encouraging conversation about mental wellness, advocacy, and empowerment, this is the episode for you. So if I was you, I would stay tuned until after the music.
You're about to listen to a great episode of the Laz and B Experience podcast. Within this episode, my hope is that you obtain something that will help you find your success. So grab a pen, get your paper, your favorite snack or drink, and really listen to what I have to say. I truly believe it can be what you need to get you to your next level in life. So grab a seat and enjoy the ride, and I'll see you on the other side.
Welcome back to another episode of the Laz and B Experience podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. This is going to be another great episode that we're going to have. And like I always say, I have a very special guest because all my guests are special because they have something that I know will help you to find your success, to find what you're looking for out of life. So today's guest we will be talking about Black mental wellness, I always mispronounce this word, advocacy, and then Black empowerment, Black male empowerment to be more specific. But my guest for today, he is a friend of mine. We've been knowing each other for a few years now. He has a podcast on his own, which I'm going to let him talk about once we get started. We're both part of NSBE, the National Society of Black Engineers, some organization that I always try to bring up. We're also part of Region 4 for... but without further ado, my guest for today is Richard Winfrey. How are you doing today?
I am good, and of course, we here in the D, so what up, though?
I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad to have this conversation with you because I think this is a very important conversation we definitely should be having in the Black community. And I feel like as years go by, these conversations are coming up a lot more with different people, with different social media backgrounds and stuff like that. So I'm happy to be a part of this conversation that we're having. So let's just get started so we can get into this information. So my first question to you is, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are an expert when it comes to Black mental wellness, Black advocacy, and Black male empowerment.
All right, so I'll try. So again, my name is Richard Winfrey. Born and raised and still in the city of Detroit. When people ask me where in Detroit, I said, like, what state? I said Detroit because, yeah. If you know, you know. What up, though? Anyway, engineer by trade, mental health advocate by practice because I believe that everyone mental matters. Believe it so much because I went through some things, if you will. And ever since that experience in 2017, I decided to get my life together in terms of talking to somebody. And so I believe in it for myself, between getting the therapy you need and that you deserve, the same way you go get the push-ups done and the sit-ups done at the gym. So not a professional by any means, but in 2018, my co-host, one of my best friends, went to college together at Wayne State University here in Detroit as well. We decided to start a podcast. I actually just started a community where we normalize Black men talking about their things. And the root of all that stems from bad mental health for Black people. And so especially for Black men. So we decided to create a space called the Mental Matters Podcast, dedicated to redefining what man up is positively for the culture. And part of it's being open, being transparent with how you feel, getting the feels out, and most importantly, working on yourself to be the best version of yourself as possible. So I believe every Black man has a great potential in him. Sometimes we just got to get the negative stuff out of there, clean our filters, and just be the best version of ourselves. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And I think you and your co-host are doing a great job with that. And it's like mental health is something that we all need to work on no matter where we are in life. So like no matter how old you are, no matter if you're a student, no matter if you're a professional, this information can definitely help you. So let's get started with what is the meaning, or what is the definition of Black mental wellness? Because I know a lot of people say Black mental health. I don't hear a lot about Black mental wellness. So can you give us a definition, or what do you mean by when you say that?
So it's kind of a play on another organization, but I'll get into that later. For me, Black mental wellness just simply means Black people taking care of their wellness in terms of their brains. And when I say that, it's not no clinical definition behind it. When I think of mental wellness, I think of mental fitness. I think of the tools you may learn in therapy. I think of the self-care that you practice. I think of knowing when to speak, knowing when not to speak, when to just be tight-lipped and just keep it moving, when to not indulge in the comments, when to indulge in the comments, because sometimes comedic behavior and very bad YouTube videos is good for your self-care. Don't let anyone tell you different.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes, exactly. Everything in moderation. But it's just a healthy balance of doing what's best for your mental fitness, your mental wellness, your mental health. I believe your health, your fitness, if you will, that the different activities you do to improve your mental, I would say, capacity, all that has something to do with your mental wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just throw Black on there, I mean, everything just looks better in Black. So that's just my opinion.
It's a great opinion.
Hey, that is my non-expert, but my experience preference, if you will, is everything is better in Black. So that's all I care about primarily.
Yeah, I agree with that, because like my podcast is mostly about finding ways to find your success, no matter how that looks for you. And in order for you to even look for your success, or even like have a foundation for your success, you have to have a wellness, you need to be well within your mind, you need to be well within your body, within your soul, and within your spirit, and all that kind of stuff. So I think this is a great thing to be talking about, because like you need to have this foundation to be successful or whatever you're going through. So since I'm kind of going over like finding your success, why do you think mental wellness is important? I know I kind of talked about it a little bit, but why do you think mental wellness is important for your success, especially in this day and age, and then especially within the Black community?
So why is our mental health important, especially within the Black community? How much time we got, man? Because we can go all night with that kind of conversation. I often think back to this a practice I learned in therapy. I often think back to where all this bad mental health started from,
Mm-hmm.
where all the shame started from, where all the trauma comes from. It's Black History Month. It's February. I don't know when y'all getting this episode, but it's February.
It's gonna be February, actually. So yeah.
All right, bet. But either way, Black History is 24/7, 365 plus the 1 day of leap year. It goes back. It's real deep. It goes back to like our great ancestors. Like there's just built up generational traumas that were built up since Black slaves from Africa, were carried from Africa over here to what we call the continental United States now. And I believe a lot of that, singing to get through the tough times, the pray it away mindset, the you better not show you can read boy mindsets, classisms, sexisms, all those isms were passed on through Black generations.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where we are today, where even in 2023, we still have to watch news stories about, police thinking they're better than Black people, no matter what the race of the police are, which is a whole different
crazy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But there's traumas built within all that. So I say all that to say some of us have so much trauma just passed on through our family trees, through our ancestral roots, things of that nature. But we're often looked at very, very closely through the microscopes of other cultures and races and religions, etc. So I think that our mental wellness is so important because we're looked at so closely. We're expected not to react as the angry black man, angry black woman. The whole mindset of that, but it's important for us to be our best version of ourselves. A lot of times we're starting from negative and not just at zero. So we have to get past all those negative traumas to get back to zero, just to be able to propel forward, such that future generations can start off with better mental health and better mental health practices. We got to teach, I think it's something that I've seen Black mental health practice more in family households these days than I remember my own upbringing. Like,
I agree.
Father telling me, like, you acting like a sissy. That's the word I'll use. And just because I had emotions, I had feelings behind something that made me feel sad, etc. That was over 20 years ago for me. So I think we've come a long way. I think that the conversations are more focused about Black mental health and Black trauma. And I think that it's important for how we're living today, but suicide rates are still up. The media is plastered all over social media, as we mentioned earlier, that sometimes reading the comments is cool, but sometimes you got to unplug from that because there's so much news in general thrown at us. And especially like the stories and the videos and all of the stuff, it's just like you gotta find your medium. You gotta find one to step away and just, so it's very, very important, the short answer of the story. But
yeah, I agree. I know with, like, you were kind of saying, like now is a lot different than back then and how we treat mental health within the Black community. And I know one thing that my family does, and I think can be definitely helpful for anybody family if they're trying to be successful with their family foundation, is have these family meetings where you can pretty much talk about anything and talk about traumas that you may have had in the past that we didn't know about, or having just different thoughts that you grew up with that you didn't feel comfortable enough talking about, but now we're like trying to figure out what are the problems that we've been going through or why we have certain issues or whatever. And then having these family meetings, like, nothing is off limits. Like, we can talk about anything. We can talk about the past, we can talk about the future, we can talk about the present. Like, we talk about everything within these family meetings. And like, even if you don't have a good relationship with all of your family, you can start with somebody. You start with a brother, start with a sister, start with an auntie, start with a grandma, start with anyone you can to like, a lot of times, and something I'm learning for myself is like, you can't just hold it in. Like, you can, like, just in your head, like, I'm not gonna let nobody know because I don't want to be ashamed of it. I don't want people to think a certain way about me. But letting it out is some reason is just like so relieving of that, like, I guess, pressure or that tension or that stress that you've been having because of these thoughts, no matter what they are. And then it just helps you, I guess, become a better you if you can let it out to at least to somebody, whether they're family, whether it's a therapist, no matter who it is. I think those kind of conversations that me and my family have is something that's been helping us through I mean, I'm not saying we're going through anything, but like, just if we're going through anything personally or individually.
Yeah, I believe everybody goes through something. No matter how deep it is, no matter how light we may think it is. Sometimes that light thing carries 24 hours later, 48 hours later. And sometimes you just need to have, most of the time it is family, but for me, that family sometimes is just my version of my ecosystem that I need that day. I got my podcast co-host Jarrell. By blood, we're not related, but that's my brother. I might text him at 7. I might text him at like 11 o'clock at night. Like, hey, I'm feeling this way. Or, dang, this didn't happen this way. Or blah, 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 blah. He won't respond. But he'll respond the next day. at like noon during his lunch break. And he'd be like, all right, I didn't have capacity to respond because I was probably asleep. Or like I didn't have capacity to handle that news at that point. But I did process it. And this is what I think about it. Like, I have people in my life like that, and I think it's so crucial. But one of the things I also said as a family we're going to do is we getting back to the soul food days. You call it a family meeting, I'm calling it family dinner. You know what I'm saying? I feel like with the right family members around you, you simply ask that roundtable question of, how you doing? But it's also learning how to ask how you doing in different love languages, right? And I don't mean in the sense of like, oh, hurt, everything's going bad, here's a Snickers, or like, here's a gift, or a new pair of shoes. But it's different ways to ask people, are you okay? Without asking, are you okay? You know, it's asking, hey, times have been rough, you know, it's been crazy, I know you've been going through some things. How's your sleep been doing? You've been getting some good sleep at night? For whatever strange reason, I don't know what the psychology is behind it, but we'll be more open about how we're sleeping than we will if something's going on.
I feel like sleep, at least a lot of people take sleep as not something that's like, I don't know how to say it, but like private. Like if I'm not sleeping, I'm not afraid to say I'm not sleeping. But if I'm like doing bad in school, like I don't want to say that because I'm embarrassed about it. So
it's just something about it gets you to open up more. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I've noticed in like my friend circles is like, well, I know this is keeping me up a little later. You know, somebody else like, what's keeping you up? And then you really start to process it like, oh, well, you know, I don't want to go to work in the morning. I know my mama going through something. You may say your dad's going through something, family, like another family member, cousin, whoever. It's keeping you up. You know, it's distracting you from the task at hand, which is going to sleep. So, I mean, it's a bunch of different ways to ask people, you know, how's your eating going? What you eat good? Maybe you're not so conscious of, maybe you're subconscious about your fitness. I had some chili cheese fries. I had two. I think I overate. Watch you overeat. And you really start to get breaking that stuff down. And you don't think that a silly conversation about asking about their food lately is going to make a difference. But it's like some people eat their sorrows away. So by you telling me that you had a whole tub of ice cream, well, I'm going to ask, well, why you have a tub of ice cream, bro? Let's talk about it. Now we engage in having the conversation. So now I feel like you know my comfort foods. Now I'm gonna tell you what's not comfortable. You know, so it's just different ways of making sure you know how to ask people how are you doing without asking how are you doing, because I might tell you, chilling. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that kind of leads me to my next question of asking, what are some things people can do to improve on their mental health?
One of the things I've been doing lately is deep breathing, just stopping, listening to my body. Deep breathing. I'm not saying I'm pulling out the full yoga outfit. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
I ain't doing it. I haven't done it. I can't say I do it. But I do practice my deep breathing, especially when I'm feeling anxious about something, like when I go into Costco. Because of this pandemic we've been in, I don't like to go in Costco. There's too many people in Costco. I literally will sit there and just start having some deep breaths. I'll just inhale, exhale. Same thing if I see some other people I know are just frantic. Stop. Breathe with me. Inhale, exhale. If you feel a little bit better than you was doing 10 seconds ago.
Yeah.
So that's one of my biggest things lately. I make sure I practice my deep breathing when I feel myself getting anxious. Like, okay, Rich, let's do this. Other than that, is music, it's podcasting, like listen to other podcasts, not necessarily just doing one.
Yeah.
It's the shoe surfing. I'll surf the net to see what new shoes is dropping. You know, if it brings me joy, I'll be like, oh, I can't wait for that. If it's trash, I'll be like, oh, this is trash. But it literally takes my mind away from what's going on in the world. And, you know, That's like surface level. I'll take care of it.
Yeah, and then I feel like sometimes people think if improve on something, especially when it comes to like mental health and mental wellness, it has to be a big kind of thing you have to do. You have to go to therapy. I mean, of course, we want you to go to therapy, but it doesn't have to start there. Starting with some deep breathing, or like for myself, I play this game. I play solitary a lot, and that kind of helps me get away from things, especially when I have school, when I'm working on this podcast, when I have work. All these other things just get into my head, and like I don't have time for anything, but I do have time for things. I just gotta manage my time more or better. So like you said, deep breathing for me is like playing a game of solitary, game of two of solitary, just to get my mind away from what's making me worry so much. And then also I think another good thing is try to get things to be, or take things in the smaller steps. So I know a lot of us, we get overwhelmed with all the stuff we have to do, but if we take it one step at a time, one small step at a time, I feel like that stress can go away, because now you're just thinking about that one thing that you're working on right now, and not thinking about the 50 things you have to do before, I don't know, next week or next month or whatever. So definitely looking at things in smaller pieces and trying to see it overall can help with that stress level.
I'm gonna add something to that. I think you bring up a good point about like trying to do heaps and chunks of things. One of our favorite holidays, I think, is Thanksgiving. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you tend to do on Thanksgiving?
Eat.
Eat. It's all the food you ain't had in a while.
Mm-hmm.
So by habit, you thinking about doing what?
Putting a whole bunch of food on your plate.
Just piling it up. You like, I can't wait to eat all this. It's gonna be so good. Turkey and dressing with gravy and ham and green beans and all these dinner rolls I can chew. You like, I'm about to smash all this. And then you have like 5 bites and you full.
Mm-hmm.
And now you like, I really wanted all this food, but I can't eat it all. Damn. Let me go get a to-go container right now. It's sort of like life. It's sort of about the fact of a lot of times we're taking on so much and more than we can chew at one time. We gotta learn to actually like just stick to like, all right now I'm gonna focus on this one little piece. I'm gonna just knock this out. Hard as I need to go through that wall, whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Once I finish that, cool. The other thing I'm gonna say is not only in addition to what you're saying about, things in moderation, but also I'm gonna say celebrate the completion of those subtasks.
Yes, I agree. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like if you did 10 push-ups today and you couldn't do 10 yesterday, clap for yourself. Like, listen, about 3 months ago, I probably couldn't do 10 push-ups straight. Because at that ninth one, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
But if something triggers you, the more you train and do it, it's like, nope, push through, push out, yell if you got to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with the trauma and things that you go through. Like, the other thing I've been doing more of is bowling.
Okay.
Every Tuesday night's a league night. And beginning of the season was kind of like getting my feet under me. I'm more sore than I'm used to being at the end of a bowling night. The more you like just push yourself a little further, a little extra here, a little extra there, then it's like you pushing through some of those tough moments. It's the same thing when it comes to your mental fortitude. The more you go through, you'll go through things in life. But you always got to make sure you got the tools in your toolbox to just say, all right, I'm going to push a little bit harder this time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go a little bit deeper in therapy. I'm going to breathe a little bit more during my deep breathing sessions, right? So that way you can push through, a lot of what you're going through. And I think that's, the more you practice it, the more you can handle more, the more you can do more, or the more you know you ain't going to do. That's the major key.
Yeah, I agree. And I was going to add to what you were just saying earlier is that like for myself, I've seen myself get into a habit of telling myself out loud, I'm proud of myself for the small things that I accomplished. Like whenever I finish like editing an episode of my podcast, I say I'm proud of myself for doing that. Whenever I complete a homework assignment on time, or even if I complete it late, whatever, I'm proud of myself. Whenever I do something that was on my to-do list, and I can actually literally check it off because I have a to-do list on my phone, and I can click it and check it off. Like I say, I'm proud of myself, and those kind of small things kind of build up like a, what do you call it, avalanche. They start off small with a small snowball, and then it picks up. That's the same thing that can happen with you, like giving yourself self affirmations, basically, of you accomplishing your goals and accomplishing the small tasks that you set up for yourself.
Exactly.
So, who are some people our listeners or the listeners of this episode can go to when it comes to taking control or taking better care of their mental wellness? Like, I know you can, I mean, also talk about yourself in your podcast, but like, who are some other people that can go to, whether it's books, whether it's podcasts, whether it's YouTube videos? Who are some people that you go to?
I think it depends. I think it depends on you. I'm not a reader. I don't like books. I'm not gonna say I don't have a plethora of books that I'm looking at right now that I need to read. I'm more of an audio person.
Yeah.
I digest my books with audiobooks. Every somebody hands, like yesterday, I kid you not, I went to a seminar basically for Black engineers. We was talking. One of the gifts for showing up was a bookmark and a book, and I was like, I appreciate it. And I immediately went to Google and said audio book for this book.
Exactly.
Like, I ain't gonna hold you up, G. Like, that's what happened. So for me, it's audio books. If it's, I don't have any good titles right now. I will say some of the ones on my to read list coming up is The Shook One by Charlemagne the God.
Okay.
I forgot the name of Will Smith's book, but the one he recently dropped, I want to read that. And those are the top two that come to my head as far as book things. Oh, no, Obama's book, President Obama's book.
Okay.
I have all three of those just sitting there like, read me. I'm like, okay, we'll do eventually.
Or listen to me.
Right. Listen to me. You can hear. Like I said, everyone's different, and so when I think of people you can talk to, I would just say make sure that you have ecosystems that you're contributing to. For me, I think I have an ecosystem for everything. I got my people I can talk to about bowling things. I got my people I can talk to about shoe things. Yes, a whole ecosystem. Mind y'all business. I got an ecosystem for people that I consider like my immediate family circle. I have my actual family circle. Yes, those are two different ones on certain days. Just saying. And so with those family circles especially, some of them are blended. So I feel like some of them I can mix and match a little bit with and still have those tough discussions about how I'm feeling, check in. But also I make sure I'm contributing to it, I'm adding to it, and not just taking away from the ecosystem. I think that's important that people need to realize and remember. And the journey to finding a therapist is not easy. I mean, I started looking in 2017. I didn't find my therapist until 2020. And that, if you remember anything about 2020, it was, for me, it was the realization that I don't have any parents of my own to talk to anymore. My mother's still here on this side of the ancestral plane. I ain't got a mama to talk to for reasons that we can even discuss. My father passed away. My grandmother's gone. My great-grandfather, who was like the last of the living legends, gone. So this period from 2015 to 2017, I didn't realize until like a couple of weeks ago that was probably the darkest period I've ever had in my life. And I did not realize that until like a couple of weeks ago. And so I've learned who was in my circle and had my back during those times. So for me, it was my two cousins who are my sisters. See, Black people always got cousins that are sisters and brothers. It happens. If you know, you know. What up, though? It's them. It's another sister who I basically grew up with when I went to college. That was just my homegirl, and she became my sister. There's her. Of all the other people I can mention right now, I would say last, definitely not least, my dope and amazing wife, because she literally stood by me through all of it and was just like, this is the one that made me realize that 2015 to 2017, it was dark. Like, it wasn't even like romantic things that really happened during that time. And that's when I got married.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I kind of snapped up out of it. And I was just like, this ain't right. I got to get this together. I'm not happy with work, but I need to make sure we're going to put this job thing to the side. That's beside the point. We got to make sure this is solid, because this is not just my, my lover and things of that nature. This is my best friend. This is my road dog. Like, I need to make sure we are good, because this coming up out of this ain't going to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't tell me until 2023 that, hey, yo, you was about to not have a wife. You know what I'm saying? And that's because I was able to just bounce energy off of her, get what I needed. And so I'll ultimately answer your question by saying this. It depends for everybody, but make sure you have solid people in your circle that's going to ride with you, because times can be extremely good. And y'all can laugh and kick it and kiki. But who are you going to share them tears with when you ain't ready to talk to your therapist yet? You need them riders in your corner.
Yeah, I agree.
Them bros is going to have your back. The sisters that may not even be your sisters. If you have a love partner, things of that nature, cool. Them two, y'all should, that communication is key. But yeah, make sure them ecosystems are maintained well and you water into them as well, because those, I think, are the foundational things, the people that got me through. But that foundation ultimately helped me find a therapist, because I was like, who you talk to?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, call this guy. I did all my research on my own, all these crazy criteria. I called this guy once, and that was my guy. So, I mean, I don't think it's a one-stop answer, but when you know you found the right therapist, you'll know.
Yeah, I agree. And then just to add to that, I think another good relationship to have is mentorship relationships that you have with people throughout your life. I think those are good people to go to, even if they are not the people who can answer the questions that you may have or have the resources you have. They most likely can find somebody who do have what you're looking for, or put you in the right direction at least. And then there's one other podcast that I listen to sometimes. It's called Know For Sure podcast, and don't laugh at me, but it's the people, or the host of the podcast is B Simone, and then her friend is Megan Ashley, I believe that's her name. But their podcast is all about like mental health and purpose and like relationships and how to be successful like within your life as well. So I think their podcast is a great resource to go to. I think it's video on YouTube. That's how I watch it on YouTube. I think it's also on podcasts, like other places too. But I listen to some of their episodes. But if you don't know about them, you can definitely go and watch their previous episodes too. Okay, one last question before we move on to a different topic or the next topic. What are some things people may not think of that is a major impact, positive and negative, on their mental wellness?
Positive and negative that you don't think of that affect your mental?
Yes.
The first thing I think of is music.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Or
The
anything
very
you
first
listen
thing I
to,
think of.
period.
Anything you listen to, period. But the first actual thing I thought of is music.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's be real, I don't know the name of this song. I don't think I want to know the name of this song. So I think I would possibly subconsciously listen to it more. But that song about, I think that's Lil Uzi Vert, the whole world's gonna listen to now. It's gone commercial. Oh, I just want to rock. It's like,
Is it a
this
new
is
song?
catchy. It's newer. It may not be him, but I think it is him. But like, it's so upbeat,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, you just feel like, man, we're good. Music for me definitely takes me into, it just carries me around in different spaces. Like, if I want to feel like, I'm gonna say this because as a black man, I'm comfortable admitting this years later. Okay, fellas, hear me out. Y'all don't have to be subconscious about blasting Beyonce. You ain't gotta be subconscious, fellas. The Renaissance album is for everybody.
It is.
It may not be primarily for us. I get that. That makes sense. But it is literally like a dance party from track 1. So I think about 6 or 7. And you realize, wow, that's a move. It's a bop. It really is. It's good music. You know what I'm saying? Whenever I need something upbeat that kind of takes me out of the funk and just made me forget about things, one of the first albums I think of is Beyonce's Renaissance album. Another one is, and God rest his soul, the 2 members of the Migos, Takeoff and Quavo. I think it's Infinity Links. It's just a vibe. It's just like, by the time Hotel Lobby come on, it's like, yeah, let's get it. That's right. You know, you start singing all the ad-libs and it's just like, you know what I'm saying? But I think that music is one of those things that can really take you from a negative to a positive place, no matter what you're going through.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there's music that I listen to in my car, like, that I know will bring me into a better mood or put me in the worst mood if that's the song. And sometimes it's paired with like a memory or something, and that memory is what brings you into that mood or something. So I think that, like you said, music can definitely have an impact because music is sometimes also paired with a memory, whether it's good or bad. And if every time you listen to that song, even though you might not remember that memory, something in your head remember it, and it remembers what kind of thing you were going through at that time. So if it was something good, of course, that's a good thing. But if you're going through something bad, like a bad breakup or losing somebody in your life, something like that, then that somehow that can bring back those feelings or that mood that you was going through.
Big facts. I got 2 more albums for you. Mary Mary the Sound. I think about, like, after the first track, I'm in like full blown like praise the Lord emojis. Like, I got tears in my eyes. I'm like, yeah, Jesus, yeah. And I'm like, I'm about to go into a work meeting. Let me clean myself up. And definitely The Coloring Book by Chance the Rapper. I think personally, just as a person that loves music, his other stuff is dope, but that's like peak Chance the Rapper. Like, that was like the thing that just put him up there. Like, all right, you got something, my guy. You got it. You came from acid rap. Now we going to The Coloring Book. You own us something here. Specifically one track on there. It ends up being a Kirk Franklin song. It's called Never Drown, I believe. And like, whenever I hear that, it reminds me of the time I came out of my depression. It reminds me of the time, actually the year, I think the album dropped the year my grandmother passed. And a lot of people don't know this story, but I think the week she was about to pass, I was actually on my way to an SB conference. I was actually leading at SB Conference. It was the National Leadership Conference at Michigan.
Okay.
I think I talked to her that last time, I think like that Tuesday, Wednesday. And then conference was over Saturday, Sunday. She passed Sunday night, Monday. But the one song I think that took me through that was Kurt Franklin's Never Drown off the Chance the Rapper album.
Okay.
And even to this day, it's like, it brings me like a joy. Like, I can go through all this deep water, but I'm never going to drown. Because through my faith and what I practice, I'm always going to come back to shore. We good.
I agree. Yeah. So let's move on to the next topic about advocacy. So what I've been trying to practice that word because I don't know why it just messed up, but whatever. So what does advocacy mean to you, and why is it important to you?
Great question. So let's start with the phrase Black Lives Matter, right? I want everybody to believe that Black Lives Matter, regardless of what they're going through in their own lives, because Black lives is the most prevalent thing right now, right? Of course, you're Black, I'm Black, we're both Black, cool. You want people to advocate for that, no matter what those spaces are. You want people to have some sensitivity, some care behind it. You don't want them to feel sorry for you. You don't want them to apologize for slavery, etc. But you want them to stand up in your Blackness for you, because you want people to show up for you, right? You shouldn't have to always fight by yourself. Cool. One of my friends talked to me about something that made so much more sense too. If all Black lives matter, then do queer Black lives matter? Of course they do.
Yeah, of course.
The same way that we want other races to defend the Black, African American plight and African American journey, there's a queer community out there that's depending on outside communities that don't live within that to stand behind them as well. No matter if you're in the room or not. That's what advocacy is. It's really, truly, wholeheartedly standing in the gaps for somebody, even though you aren't a part of that plight or a part of that journey. And I take the same thing seriously when it comes to mental wellness. I've been thankful to be named as a mental health advocate and ambassador for Black Mental Wellness organization. And one of the things I'm always doing, granted, I talk to a lot of people anyway, just because I'm a refined extrovert that's finding introverted tendencies. But, you know, I'm also believe that you also speak life into people, no matter if you know them or not. Because as a person who's had people in their lives who have thought about and admittedly talked about wanting to commit suicide, I believe you should always talk life into people. Because your conversation with them may be the last conversation they hear. So if you say something that speaks life into them, that conversation may not be the last conversation they have. Yeah,
I agree.
And so advocacy is so important to me because, you know, I do strong as a Black man in America, in the middle of a gentrification and within the city of Detroit. I realized that, you know, there are people moving here from all over because Detroit's so cool. It's coming back so well. Detroit never went nowhere. It's always been here since the beginning of time. But most importantly, there are people that's from this community, that's about this community, and we defend and advocate for this community like crazy. Same thing with Black lives. For those of my people and my best friends that are in the queer community, I stand by them. I'm like, who's this boo you talking to? I want to know who it is. I'm giving nails even though I don't have nails. I can be a part of your community and advocate for you even if I'm not from or part of that community. So advocacy to me is very, very important, I think, to building that culture that, you know, we always wanted. We always think about the Martin Luther Kings of the world. We want to embrace that true community where, you know, it's 4 little children can live in a nation where they're not judged by the color of their skin, but the contents of their character. If we truly believe in that, then we'll stand in the gap for one another, regardless of race and color and practice or whatever.
Yeah, agreed. So what are some things people can do, or things that you do, to show your advocacy for Black people or for any type of person?
Good question. So I know one of the things I've done is I've asked the question, why? Why do you say that? Why do you feel that way? What brings you to that perception? I challenge the question. I don't care what space I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I've grown comfortable with making others uncomfortable about the things that they say, the ignorance that they spew. There was, and I can speak about this candidly because I still stand behind it. There was one of my fraternity brothers. Shout out to them in Alpha Phi Alpha. We here. There was another gentleman I know in the queer community, graduated from law school. I think his graduation photos, he had on some red bottom like sandals with a suit, with a fraternity stole on, with the cap, the law school cap, and just graduated. And I'm like, this is gonna be controversial. I already know it is. There's a man in a suit with some sandals, some heels on. Not like the cookout sandals.
Like, they were like heels, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
The open toe heel situationship. And some members locally was asking, y'all see that? That's less than a minute. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. That's so trash. This, that, and the third, just spewing all this stuff. So I asked, why do you feel that way? Why do you feel so strong about it? They couldn't come up with an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you obviously have a feeling behind it. It just makes you feel a way. But what's wrong with it? Because it's not normal. It's not what you're used to. It's not the brown dress shoes you think should go with the brown belt. What is it that's wrong? Now, I can tell you what's wrong, but this is my perception about it. And I'll hit them up personally because, one, we always talk about, I am my brother's keeper.
Mm-hmm.
That's no matter what fraternity you in or not in. I'm gonna be my fellow man's keeper. I'm my brother's keeper. I don't care about the race. I don't care about the gender that you are or what you practice. I'm gonna hold you accountable. So people was in the comments just trashing him. So I went straight to the comments. I was like, why y'all trashing him? He gonna have to defend y'all in court one day. He probably damn good at what he do.
Mm-hmm.
Stop this. So in the comments, I didn't care. But the other thing is, because of Nesby, I'm connected with this home chapter.
Okay.
So I know the people that brought him in. They're my guys. I can call one of them right now. They answer the phone. Them like family from another state. And so I slid in my dude DMs and I said, hey, yo, listen. I got your back, bro. They talk crazy, tag me. I'll step in. No problem. But my only issue is this. Your shoe selection should have been better. It should have been some like red bottom, like stilettos. You graduated law school, bro. Like, listen, you should have came harder than some open toe sandals. You should have worn it. You should have stepped on their necks, bro. Like, come on. What's wrong with you? Dude, go your first paycheck, go get you some of those. Mm-hmm. But like, it's all love. Like, you're going to run into people that you don't 100% agree with. But some of them might end up being some of your best friends and acquaintances or advocates for your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want people to show up for you, you got to show up for other people. And to me, advocacy looks like standing in the gaps for somebody if they're not in the room. That goes behind that whole integrity thing we always talk about but never practice as a community.
Mm-hmm.
If you stand behind something, stand behind it, literally. Whether somebody watching you or not, because somebody's always going to watch you. And then too, I mean, if you truly believe in this whole Black Lives Matter thing for me, then you got to account for all the Black lives as a part of that statement.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to also say something that people can do to show their advocacy to whatever community, including the Black community, is having that open mind to having these discussions, or like not being so opinionated about something just because, like you were saying, they're not used to it, or it's not something they would do, or they they don't think is, I guess, quote unquote normal to do. Like being able to like have that open mind and being able to accept something that you don't agree with, and move on from that. Like it's okay to agree to disagree with things. I think the biggest thing is not having it not be something that is harmful to someone else. So like if someone say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like you don't want to be an advocate for something that's going to harm someone else, no matter it's physical, mental, whatever it is. So just being open. The biggest thing is being open-minded and not like being critical of someone just because you're not used to it or it's not something that you would do.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll say this briefly as well. I think the biggest way you can do it is just simply ask that or challenge the status quo and say, why do you feel that way? How was that breaking your back? How was that taken from your household? Like, you passing judgment that actually does more harm than good. If you're comfortable where you at, you can hear them out while they on that side of the fence or that in that space. You ain't gotta judge them because somebody gonna judge you one day. And what they gonna find. You know what I'm saying? So people just need to be, I think the last part about it is people need to mind their business.
That's true. Yep.
I think that
if it's not hurting you or somebody else,
business, if we do more minding our own business, we ain't gotta worry about nobody else's. If you got nothing good to say, mind your business.
That's great. I think that's a great quote that people need to take into their lives. So when it comes to advocacy, what role does it play in the success of Black people in America?
United we stand, divided we fall. I think if we do more advocating for one another, we can show more of a unified front. It's having those tough conversations in private and public spaces. It's understanding that even though we have the same Black skin, I mean, we have the same Black viewpoints. It's coming to a common consensus racially about what it means for making sure that we overcome whatever those things are, and having a united front to the society that we live in, or society that watches us. Because again, we're the darkest things in the room, so everybody always looking at us. I don't care if you African, I don't care if you Black American, I don't care if you Black African, I don't care if you Black Jamaican. Black face is a black face at the end of the day. They all gonna think we look alike. They all gonna think we from the same spots. They all gonna say go back to Africa, whatever nonsense they gonna say. So I would just say, give them a show. You know, show them why we the best and the baddest. That even though we've been through all these things, look at us now overcoming. Just be united front, support one another, love one another, and you know, I think J. Cole said this in one of his songs. He was talking about you met the president. So sometimes we won't solve everything in our lifetime, basically, but we just got to make it better for the future generations so they can continue to fight. I don't think we'll solve everything in our lifetime, but the more we do it better, leaving it better than we found it, the better it goes down the family trees. So.
Yeah, definitely. And then finding success is harder by yourself. Like they say, you can go fast and far by yourself, but no, you can go fast. I don't know how it goes, but I know you can go like fast by yourself, but with a group of people, you can go farther. It might be slower, it might take more time, but you can get a lot further with a group of people. And being an advocate for people put you in a room with more people so you can be successful, so you can find that success with people, because you don't know everything and they don't know everything, and what you know can definitely help the group go faster, and what they know can definitely help the group go faster as well. So it's all about teamwork. My football coach used to say this all the time: teamwork make the dream work. And he said that so much that I thought he made that saying, but of course that's been said by a whole bunch of people, not just my football coach. But like, I think that's true for everything, not just for football, not just for sports. But let's move on to this last topic before we end this episode, which is about Black male empowerment. So why is Black male empowerment important to you and to your success?
Besides the fact that I'm a Black man. I mean, quite frankly, it's hard to care about anything else when you are that thing. I come from a inner city place y'all all heard about. It's called Detroit. So some people, it's a city within the state of Michigan. To me, it's a colony within the state of Michigan. Its own ecosystem, its own space, surrounded by the Metro Detroit area that people also call Detroit for whatever strange sick reason. Anyway, if you're from an inner city like a Chicago or Detroit, you probably know what I'm talking about. You got the metro area, right?
Mm-hmm.
In those communities, you are, because of street culture, you probably feel insecure. You probably feel seen. You probably feel stared at, looked at, saw. And depending on what you're wearing, you may really feel saw or seen or heard and envied, things of that nature, to a point where you're considered a threat to whatever they're trying to do. For example, they may think you a threat because you got the J's on, still all the girls at school. They might think because you know the answer to a few things, a couple of questions the teacher answered in class, that you think you smarter than everybody. And that's just in the classroom and in your families. It's not necessarily the case. I just want to be the best version of myself. But I also don't want to have to hide it. I don't want to have to wear bummy shoes every single day just so you want to pick with me. But you get into this whole survival mode. So then you got street culture. When you get in survival mode, you got street violence. Then on top of that, you got other things. Totally a tangent. I think that when it comes to just Black men standing against one another is one of the most beautiful things you can do. It's important because, like you mentioned earlier, by yourselves you can probably go faster, but with more people you can probably stretch further. You ever seen one Black man in a suit? Look good by himself, got a sharp suit on. You ever seen 10 Black men with a suit on? They like, oh, they all up to something.
Mm-hmm.
Now picture in your mind 100 Black men with suits on. They about to start something.
I just got a picture of Nesby conference.
Listen, I still got pictures in my phone. I kept them in the phone just for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You see that, you just like, look at this sea of beautiful Black faces. They smell. The Nesby convention is basically Black professional like students that know how to swag surf, smell like shea butter, and whatever the dopest cologne is or perfumes are. That's what an Nesby conference is like. And they're all smart as all get out. They all know some STEM something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like Wakanda.
Basically.
Yeah, like
we bring Wakanda whatever city we go to.
Right, exactly. Wakanda by way of Detroit is the best one I remember, but I ain't gonna get into why. But it's a beautiful thing when you see Black men unite. It's a beautiful thing to see Black people unite in general. But when you see a bunch of Black people just shooting compliments to one another and not shooting at each other,
mm-hmm.
You tell me something that'll make you feel good. That's one thing that does. You see a bunch of Black men giving compliments, and my favorite of all time, I'm trying to get like you.
Exactly.
I'm trying to get like you. Come on. I'm trying to get like you, bro. It's one of the best compliments you can give a fellow Black man. So, fellas, if you're out there, you hear that compliment, get that to your homeboys and let them get that to their homeboys. And y'all gonna all be in the room like, come on, Jays. Come on, fresh lineup. Come on, fresh locks. See you, Black man. It's something about, don't get me into this bag, bro. I will be here all night.
That kind of leads me to my next question is, like, what are some things we can do on a daily basis to empower each other? And I mean, that's one of the things we can do. Just when we see each other, like, give each other those compliments when we see we doing something nice or we look nice, or I mean, just to give somebody a compliment to make them feel good. Like, what are some other things, or do you know of some other things that we can do on a daily basis to really empower each other?
There's a couple things I do. One, I'm kind of conscious about because I remember whenever I used to hear that, I mean, it was time to check them boys in. They don't like your shoes, bro. You can't use that with everybody because everybody be like, "What you mean? Like, you see my shoes?
Mm-hmm.
See, now you feel seen because I see your shoes, which possibly means you want my shoes."
That's true too.
Well, I do want your shoes. They look nice. They dope. They cold, bro. Like, but some people take that as your shoes.
Exactly. I'm trying to your shoes
Check
right
them
now.
in. If you don't, you will. And that's not what I mean. That's not. I think we got to make sure that it's similar to how we say, "How are you doing?" without asking, "How are you doing?" It's got to be a more creative way to say your shoes is dope, bro, without saying, "I like your shoes, bro." But more importantly, like, I forget the movie that this was in. But again, there's nothing wrong with speaking positivity into people.
I think that's the biggest thing.
It's like, I really hope you have a good rest of your day, bro. Like, if you see somebody going through it, don't feel ashamed to, like, offer a compliment.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be just in person. Like, we have social media now, and people put out content every day, liking somebody's what they putting out, commenting that you like it, sharing it with other people. Like, that is a form of empowerment too. Like, you're showing people that you enjoy whatever they put out, whether it's just a simple video, a simple photo, a podcast episode, whatever. Like, you showing that person out to your other followers or other people that you follow on social media is a great way to show you're empowering that person.
That's it. Just get Music Soul Child said it best. Give more love.
Exactly.
That's your homework. Give more love. You'll thank me.
So as we wrap up this episode, there's these last few questions I asked all my guests. The first one being, is there anything that we missed, or would you like to talk about anything that that you want to make sure that people take away from this conversation?
I'm excited to announce that the Mental Matters podcast will be 5 years this year. It started as a DM on Facebook. It was like I wanted to have a male panel or like a forum where we just get uncles, fathers, cousins, etc., friends in the room. We talk about our things, and I was like, that should be a podcast though. I'm a DM you. Slid him the idea. We went to Panera Bread. We just hashed it out over a turkey bacon Bravo, and by that April, it was actually really dope because April 15th is the passing anniversary of my father, and we were gonna do it like later in April. I was like, can I pull a point of privilege? I want to release this on April 15th, our first ever episode. Why Mental Matters? Let's just drop it on the 15th. And Drill has this very bad habit of just following what I ask. So it seems like I'm telling him what we about to do, and it's like, no, I want your feedback. Like, I'm not trying to be, all right, bet. And so we released the first episode, and that's our podcast anniversary, April 15th. And so it's kind of a double entendre how I kind of helped celebrate my father. But I'm glad we had that DM conversation, because what I realized is that there's no other podcast by Black men about mental health out of Detroit. At least not at that time. I think we were the first one to ever do so. And 5 years away from the first day, almost 100 episodes in. And the crazy thing is, I think we're just really getting started with this whole thing. So I will ultimately say that if you have that one idea, and we talked about it before, Take your itty bitty steps towards that thing. If it's something you want to do, want to create, start with the first day. Open the app, look up different ways people do it. Don't be discouraged about what you don't think you have. But most importantly, look at the people you have around you, the things you want to do, and what you do have.
Yeah.
Because if y'all know, if y'all from them cultures, we done made dinner out of some things. Listen, pork and beans and rice. I mean, pork and beans with hot dog.
Exactly.
Hey,
that was
we
good.
done made more with less. Why you think the pie spaghetti is famous in the Black community? Just saying. So realize what you have, and if you want to create something bigger, then work at it every single day. And then one day, you'll look back and say, dang, I really didn't have much then. Look at me now. And celebrate the steps along the way.
Definitely. And then next, what is one or maybe two things that you want to make sure that all the listeners get away from this conversation? If they don't remember anything else, you got to remember this one thing or remember these two things.
One or two things that you want people to take away, Rich. Let's see. One, I would definitely say, remember that your boundaries, they're yours. You are literally defined by the boundaries you set. For example, some people know I'm not hanging out just willy-nilly in the middle of wherever. I'm not just gonna go out because y'all going to the bar, y'all going to X, Y, and Z. Your boy ain't doing that. Like,
and for
I know,
since this is a audio podcast, he was pointing to his ring. His
ring on the finger means your boy ain't about to be out here just dangling
his
just
wedding
out in these streets. Yes. I would say, and this was actually, I stole this from the Queen's sister herself, Solange. Yes, I refer to Beyonce as the Queen because, I mean, if y'all call MJ the King of Pop, we can call Beyonce the Queen of all, like, R&B music, I think, and pop music right now. 32 Grammys to be able to let you do that. Anyway, do nothing without intention. Whatever it is, don't care what it is. If you're gonna do it with intention. Somebody's gonna watch you, somebody's gonna congratulate you. Somebody's gonna hate you for the fact that you thought of it first. And it's gonna come across as hate of you. They just hate you did it first. So
not even hate that you thought of it first, hate that you put it out there first. Because they probably thought about it, they just put no actions to it. But now you out there doing it, and now they kind of hating because they didn't do it.
Right. It's space for everybody, bro. Like, you ain't gotta hate and tear nobody down. Just find you a lane. You know, what you do may not be the most LeBron-ish thing out here. You know what I'm saying? You may not be the top of all things, you know, in certain things, but you may be really great at what you do personally.
Exactly.
And that makes you you. Like, you know, the shoes that you want to rock, get the shoes you want to rock. The things that you want to say and got opinions about, find a good way to say them. But say those things because somebody may need to hear it. Advocate for who you believe needs to advocating, and just stay in your lane and just stand behind what you say because somebody needs to see that strength. But most importantly, do it with intention.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I do want to say thank you again for being a guest on my podcast. A lot of great information, a great conversation that we have had, and I'm pretty sure a lot of great information that our listeners can get away with. But before I let you go, is there anything that you would like to shout out, anything that you would like to promote, anything that's going on that you want the people to know about? Please let us know right now, and how they can follow you on social media.
Hey, so I'm gonna keep y'all for another hour. No, I'm playing. Make sure that y'all check out the Mental Matters podcast. Here to redefine manhood properly for the culture. You can find us on your favorite streaming platforms such as iHeartRadio, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, all those things. Check out the website, mentalmatterspod.com. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Yeah, we did it. We're on TikTok. And, you can also follow me anywhere you are on your social media things. Just look for Rich Loves Kicks. Why? Because I do. I genuinely do. I don't buy them all, but I do have a love for shoes because there was a time at once when I had to have shoe money to be able to look at shoes. Well, now guess what? Thankfully, I have shoe money. We worked hard.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So feel free to check out the pod. We do have merch. I am wearing some of it right here. Life is short. Go to therapy, and of course, always buy the shoes. It's important for your self-care. It is for mine. But we have a website. On the website, there's merch. Make sure y'all check it out. Make sure you grab some and tag us when you get it because you want to see those beautiful faces rocking the merch. So
yeah, I agree. Well, again, thank you for this great conversation. Thank you to the listeners for listening in on this great conversation. And as always, until next time, continue your journey until you reach your success.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Lazenby Experience podcast. I really hope you were able to receive valuable information that will help you take actionable steps to get you closer to achieving your goals. If this is true for you, I would really appreciate it if you share this episode with others, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to continue receiving updates on new episodes. I truly am excited about how my experience, the Lazenby Experience, can make a difference in your life. Again, thank you for listening to the Lazenby Experience podcast, and until next time, continue your journey until you reach your success.